Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a DIY on how to make this crib mobile for a nursery. I'm so happy with how this turned out for my baby girl's nursery. It was so easy and affordable to make, so let's get into it. You're going to need fabric scissors, a macrame hoop in whichever size you choose, felt in the colors you want to use, along with matching yarn, fishing wire or nylon thread, yarn needles, polyfill, and templates printed out online of clouds and stars in whatever size you want, along with pins. The first thing you're going to do is cut out your templates. Again, I found these online. I just Googled cloud templates and star templates. The clouds, I believe, were about 3.5 inches long, and I cut out these small stars thinking that I was going to use them, but then they ended up being too small. These were 2-inch stars, and I went with the 3-inch stars, which you see me cutting out right now. I would recommend printing these templates out on a cardstock paper because it's a bit stiffer and will help with the next part of the project. You're going to take your felt and fold it in half, that way it has 2 layers, and you will pin your cloud template through both of the layers. This is why the cardstock is a little bit easier because it's not as flimsy and won't rip as much as you're pinning it to your felts. You can choose whatever color felt you want for this project, and honestly you can choose whatever shape you want, but I decided to go with clouds and stars. Here I'm just cutting the felt into a smaller piece so it's easier to cut. You're going to cut the felt following the shape of your cloud, and make sure you have fabric scissors that are sharp because this can be a little bit difficult, especially with this felt that I chose. I chose a thicker, kind of fluffier felt, and some parts were a little bit difficult to cut, but I got through it. So next you're going to take off the template by removing the pins. Make sure you keep the 2 pieces of felt sandwiched together, and then take your pins to repin those layers back together. Next, you're going to do the same thing with your star template on a different color felt. I used gray, but again, you can use any color that you want. And make sure your felt pieces are small. That way you can really cut along the lines and the angles. This felt was less thick and less fluffy than the white felt, so it's easier to work with. You're going to remove the pin, remove the template, keep the layers sandwiched together, and repin them. Then you can cut out as many clouds and stars as you want for your mobile. Next, you're going to take your white yarn and thread it through your yarn needle. You can use embroidery thread for this. It would probably be easier to go through the felt, but I kind of liked the thick look of the yarn. So next you're going to go ahead and sew your 2 pieces of felt together, keeping the pins in place so it's easier to follow the outline of the cloud. Essentially, you're kind of stitching a tiny little pillow. Once you've made it almost all the way around the cloud, you can go ahead and remove the pins. Make sure you leave a tiny little opening at the top. That way you can stuff it with your polyfill. Work with smaller pieces and build your way up. Make sure you're stuffing the polyfill into the little cloud domes. That way every little part of the cloud is nice and fluffy. Once you feel like it's stuffed enough, go ahead and start stitching the top. Make sure you leave a tiny little hole to add a little bit more stuffing at the end in the top dome of the cloud, and then you can go ahead and stitch it and tie a knot at the top so none of the polyfill will come out. Next, you're going to do the same thing with your stars. So thread the gray yarn through your yarn needle and go ahead and start stitching the 2 pieces of felt together. These were a little bit more tricky because they were smaller, the lines were straighter, there were more sharp angles on this, but just do the best you can and know that you're doing something out of love and doing something yourself, which I think is so much fun and makes the project that much more special. So once you've gone almost all the way around the star, make sure you leave that tiny opening so you can add your polyfill to stuff each of the stars. For this, you're going to want to definitely use small amounts of polyfill and try to stuff them into the corners of the star with your fingers. I found it helpful to take my scissors and carefully use the points of them to shove the polyfill into the corners of the star. Again, embroidery thread probably would have been a little bit easier to work with, especially with these stars, but it's really up to you on the kind of look that you want to go with. So go ahead and start stitching the rest of the star together and make sure you knot off the top so none of that polyfill comes out. Once it is stuffed and sewn up, go ahead and use your fingers to kind of massage the polyfill throughout the star and make it all nice and even, and then you'll have a really cute star. You're going to repeat this and make as many clouds and stars as you want. It's really up to you. The next part is attaching the nylon thread to your macrame hoop. You're going to want to cut 3 pieces of nylon thread, each about 3 feet long. Take each piece of thread and securely tie a knot onto the macrame hoop. I triple knotted my pieces. Make sure your nylon threads are evenly spaced. That way the hoop will be in balance when you hang it. You want to make sure that it is hanging flat, and this is something that you can adjust as you go. So gather your 3 pieces and start hanging your hoop and adjusting the height of each piece until it is hanging flat. Once it is, tie your 3 pieces of nylon thread together in one knot at the top, making sure the pieces are taut and making sure the hoop still hangs flat. Next, you're going to take your nylon thread and thread it through the yarn needle. I kind of varied the length of the nylon thread for each cloud and star. I wanted them to hang at various heights, but you can have them all the same length, whatever you want. Take your needle and nylon thread and sew it through the top of the cloud, and make sure you tie a couple knots so it's nice and secure and hanging on the thread. Next, you're going to follow the same steps by threading the nylon thread through a point of the star. Make sure you tie it off securely, and you're going to repeat these steps with all of your clouds and all of your stars. Again, you can cut the length of the nylon thread to be the same for all your clouds and stars or different. Next, you're going to attach your clouds to your mobile. Secure each of the clouds with a double or a triple knot at the same point where you hung the initial embroidery thread that hangs the mobile. You want the clouds to be equally spaced. Once all of the clouds are attached, go ahead and lift your mobile to see how it looks, and then you can plan out where you want to put your stars. There's really no method in how or where you hang the stars. It's really up to the look you want. So just have fun with it, play around with spacing and lengths. The great thing about this project is you can really make it your own. You can choose your colors, you can choose your shapes. It's really up to you and the theme or the color scheme of your nursery, which makes it all that much more fun. And there you have it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's DIY. I had so much fun making this mobile for her nursery. It's fun, it's affordable, and makes it that much more special to do it yourself. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Love you guys so much.